Now, it was the third TV final for Dirk van Duijvenbode, and the closest he's come to lifting the silverware as he loses, as we mentioned, to Gerwyn Price in a last leg decider from 10-9 up. Was this, though, the one that got away from him?
Yeah, I think you have to say it was one that got away for Dirk. And I was looking back at his two previous TV finals, the World Grand Prix 2020, which again was against Gerwyn Price, lost that one 5-2 in sets. And that week in Coventry was the week that he really did announce himself in the world of darts. It was only the third time that he'd qualified for a major event that wasn't the UK Open. He had an appearance in the European Championship, the World Championship back in 2015, 2016 time. So it had been a long time for him. And to get to the World Grand Prix, took some scalps and surpassed everyone's expectations that weekend. And since then, he has kicked on. He's had more deep runs on TV. He's become more of a regular in the major events, getting to quarterfinals of a lot of the events, the World Match Play, the European Championship, other events as well. And this year, of course, he had another run to the final, the Dutch World Series event earlier on in the year, and ran into a red-hot Dimitri van den Bergh in that final, who averaged 104, beat him 82. And yeah, this is the closest by far that he's come to winning one of these TV events. And okay, you look back at his run, first round against Halpai Pua, survived the match start at the ball to win that game, and had survived another match start in the quarterfinal against Ryan Joyce. And then he gets past Johnny Clayton to make the final, and he went toe-to-toe with the world number one for those 21 legs. He was 8-7 up. He had 82 left, and Gerwyn Price takes out 121 on the ball to make it 8-all. And then Price takes out a 115 in the next leg to break for 9-8. What does Dirk do? Responds back-to-back 180s, 11 darter to break straight back, holds for 10-9. And at that point, he's just got to win one of the last two legs. And against the throw, didn't really get a sniff, did he? We saw Gerwyn Price holding 12 darts to take it to that deciding leg. And in the final leg, Dirk had the darts, but wasn't able to find one of those big visits, a two treble or a three treble visit, and he left 116 after 15 darts. Gerwyn Price managed to break him in 14 darts to win it, and I think that is going to hurt him, because he knows that he's more than capable on throw of throwing a 4 visit or a 5 visit leg, and to leave 116, not get a chance at a finish within those 15 darts. I think he'll be disappointed with that. But when it comes down to that last leg decider on stage in front of your home crowd, the pressure that comes into it as well, that's a situation that Dirk's not been in very often, has he? And especially in a final like that. So he said afterwards he should have won it, and if he'd have picked off one or two more trebles in that decider, he would have had a chance to win it before Price took out that 90 to win it. So he is getting closer and closer, and I think we said it after he made that last final in the Dutch World Series that he is getting closer, and he is going to learn from those experiences. You'd imagine he is someone that is still got a lot more to learn in the game, but he is still pushing up the rankings. And I've seen talk of him potentially getting in the Premier League next year. And now that it is 8 players, you'd say he's going to have to need more of these runs. He's going to have to make more finals on TV, and he's probably going to have to win 1 or 2 of these titles as well. So he knows what he has to do. And I think getting as close as he did, I think he'll be disappointed, of course, for a little while, but I think he'll think, I got that close. I'm not far away. One of these titles is going to come very soon.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be disappointed for even longer than you say. I don't think it'll just be a little while. I think he'll be disappointed until he wins a major title. That said, that could very well be the next event. And because he's a player who builds off a disappointment well. And that's at least what I've noticed from him this year. You go back the World Match Play, he looked like one of the players to beat in that tournament. One of the performances of the first round and one of the matches of the first round against Brian Searle, and then another great performance against Michael Smith. Granted, Michael Smith didn't show up for the first half of that match, but then he just got outplayed by Danny Noppert in the quarterfinal. And that was obviously disappointing, because Dirk van Duijvenbode really looked like he could lift the title that week up until that match. But in his first attempt since then, he goes and makes the final. And he has some phenomenal scalps and phenomenal bottle to get there along the way, getting through Halpai Pua in a last leg decider, getting through Ryan Joyce, who had a very good couple of matches before that in a last leg decider, getting past Johnny Clayton, who's back on song in the semifinal. Johnny Clayton, of course, having just knocked out Michael van Gerwen. So Dirk van Duijvenbode took the disappointment of the World Match Play and fueled it to a finals appearance here. And he's been doing that all year. He's really upped his game, and he's taken that disappointment of last year where he seemed like he had stagnated and pushed on and motivated him. And I think he'll do the same from this. Was it one that got away? Yeah, you can say it was, because Gerwin Price didn't play at his brilliant best. And he had the chance to win it. He was 10-9 up. He was going for the match in that last leg decider and had a dud of a leg. But it won't be one that he'll remember as having got away, because I think a major title is in him, and I think it's in him fairly soon. He is a player who isn't just having a hot spell. He isn't a player who he's not just a player who's going to be around for a little while. He looks like a player who's here to stay. And there's been some Dutch players recently who we might have thought that about. Benito van de Pas, who had a few years, was in the Premier League conversation, but then just fell off a cliff. Jeffrey de Zwaan, who had that brilliant start to the season a couple years ago, making major semifinals left and right, beating Michael van Gerwen at the World Match Play, but then disappeared, seems to be rebuilding again. I mean, Jermaine Watermanen with a bunch of semifinals on the floor and on the European tour, but they didn't kick on, and they stagnated and dropped. Every time that Dirk van Duijvenbode has looked like he stagnated or looked like he might have plateaued, he has driven himself to bigger and better things. And we're seeing that again right now. I think he's here to stay. I think he's still on the up. I don't know what the ceiling is for him, but it's still, I think, a long way from where he is right now. And he's already someone who, as you said, is in the outer fringes of the Premier League conversation for next year. Those outer fringes, though, will begin to look a lot closer if he keeps playing like this, and I think he will.